It was the media. It was CNN that relentlessly pushed that propaganda.
This is exactly what you do. Every single Republican who does any media appearance for the next 6 months is going to have to be prepared to answer the same question. Will you accept the results of the 2024 presidential election? It's almost like they're setting us up for something. Well, Ted Cruz was on with Kaitlan on CNN last night, and I think he gave a pretty good example of how to respond to this. Take a look.
Attorney General, and my question was it was the media. It was CNN that relentlessly pushed that propaganda. And by the way,
never propaganda that there was no widespread fraud in the election.
That voter fraud doesn't exist, and anyone who says it does is wearing a tinfoil hat. That is propaganda. And by the way, you never asked Hillary Clinton this. You never asked Stacey Abrams this. You never asked Al Gore this.
With all due respect,
and every
Senator,
one of them said the Republicans who won were illegitimate.
I haven't had any of them on my show. We'll talk to them. But I don't remember there being a president who was refusing to turn over the transition of power and facilitate in it.
And Trump didn't either. Joe
My
Biden
question was
became
about 2024.
president.
You did not answer.
Let me say a final point
Senator Ted
for you.
Cruz,
You
we're
said
out of
they
time.
haven't come.
Thank you very much,
My
Senator
opponent,
Ted
Colin
Cruz.
Allred, hasn't either. He ought to come to your show.
Senator Ted Cruz, no answer to that question. Thank you very much. Much more on that interview and what we touched on earlier. Of course, you heard the news story about the latest Supreme Court justice. We talked about Justice Alito there. There is more news on that tonight.
That ended nicely, didn't it? Listen, this is exactly what you do. You push back. You don't give anything. And by the way, we only showed you about a minute of it. That went on for several minutes. Chris, do Republicans need to take this stance? Do they need to be combative right back to these hypocrites in the media?
It's brilliant, actually, and I'm pleased to see it because Marco Rubio, if you saw it, I'm sure you did on your show, did something similar with Kristen Welker last Sunday. Almost an identical exchange with the same interrupting by Kristen Welker as Kaitlan Collins. Senator, all due respect, Senator, because they were killing it. They were crushing it. They were making the case over and over and over again. Democrats have been on the record repeatedly, including Hillary Clinton, refusing to accept the election, the legitimacy of the election, questioning the legitimacy of Trump's presidency. They've been saying it throughout his presidency. They've continued to say it. And they have no answer for it. So they just keep saying, Senator, all due respect. Well, I haven't had them on my show, Senator. It doesn't make it less true. I'm glad they're all on the same page.
And Andy, Republicans are notorious at being lousy at messaging, staying on message, and being consistent when they do media appearances. But maybe they've turned the page on this issue in particular.
Absolutely. I think what Senator Cruz and Senator Rubio provided were templates for every Republican to push back on this. And you have to be that assertive. You have to be almost rude. And as conservatives, we like the rule of law. We respect decorum, but we also have to know who we're dealing with here. And what we're dealing with is a propaganda machine of the DNC. And I like how the media always they always fall back on there was no widespread voter fraud. Well, there's no widespread. I'm going to quote my friend Hans von Spakovsky here. There's no widespread bank robberies, but we still have to take precautions against them. When we looked at the 2020 election, widespread, probably not. Okay, but it certainly was. There were some targeted incidences in some key states, so they fall back on that widespread, and they try to bludgeon Republicans who dare disagree with them. But boy, what Senator Cruz did was spot on.
And Julie, isn't there sort of a fatal flaw in the premise of the question in the first place? How on earth should any politician whose constitutional duty is to certify an election, why should they commit right now to certify an election that they've never actually observed? It hasn't occurred yet. Why you can't put yourself in that position.
I think Ted Cruz made that point in that clip in a longer portion of it. He says, why should we even have election laws? Why not just throw everything out? Why don't we just throw elections out? What's the point? What's the point of listening to me? And I want to say also the idea that they asked these politicians this question after Hillary Clinton, who is a traitor, cooked up these sleazy allegations against President Trump, caused millions of dollars to be spent in taxpayer dollars investigating those lies, tore this country apart for years with these allegations of Russia collusion. And they're not concerned about that. They're not concerned about what happened, what the Democrats cooked up to actually change an election to get him impeached. But they want us. I mean, the idea that we would just certify anything after what the Democrats pulled this last election is absurd.
Right. It's asking people, you're not on the jury yet, but will you vote to
Right.
acquit if you do get on the jury?
Right.
Let's play a little game here. See, because listen, I love it when they mix it up. I love it when Ted Cruz argues like this. He's one of the best arguers. Not all of the Republicans on Capitol Hill are skilled debaters like Ted Cruz is. So I want to make it simple for them. Here's how I would answer the question if they asked me, will you certify the election? The answer should be this. As long as the Democrats don't cheat again, absolutely. Chris, is there a better way to do it? I think that sort of sums it up.
I love it, but here's what they say. And this is something I've harped on a lot on the show, too. Here's what they say to that. No judge has ... No judge. That's what they say over and over. Just like,
oh, yeah.
It's madness. It didn't happen because no judge has ruled on it, is what they say to that.
They also always trot out Chris Krebs, who is with CISO's DHS, and his quote, "There's never been a more secure election." I mean, they always that alone. Say no more. They trot that out, and you're supposed to shut up.
By the way, Andy, never been a more secure election. Actually, even if it is true, it doesn't negate the fact that in Georgia and in Pennsylvania and in Arizona, they counted ballots that didn't have valid signatures or dates on them. And you can't even get a paper trail to audit the ballots that were counted in Georgia, as we just learned in Fulton County. So, hey, it was secure, but we counted secure ballots that shouldn't have been counted.
What about the suitcases full of ballots they found in Detroit when they threw out the election observers, taped up the windows, pulled out the suitcases? People have sworn affidavits. They have witnessed this stuff. So, and they're going to fall back again on the widespread issue. Ted Cruz did a wonderful job. I think Republicans need to know the first thing they should say. Right, I say after you say, what you said with regard to as long as Democrats don't cheat, is I don't buy your premise. Why? I don't accept your premise.
Hey, Andy, I'll let you have the last word here because you are with the Association of Mature American Citizens. And I do worry that elderly Americans, people that are in long-term care facilities or hospice or other types of nursing facilities or nursing homes, I get concerned that they're being taken advantage of. In California, I know for a fact that there is a very robust ballot harvesting operation, and they target buildings like that. They target organizations that have many senior voters because they're vulnerable, and they often trust the person who's knocking on their door saying, yeah, give me your ballot, I'll take care of it for you. Is that something that the people at AMAC are concerned about and your membership is concerned about?
Yeah, we educate our members on this practice. We're in coalition with organizations that have set up hotlines. We make those hotlines available to our members if they see anything funny going on with their loved ones in an assisted living facility or a nursing home. We continually educate our members on this type of practice. And I mentioned it in California, it can be legal to harvest ballots, but we want people to be aware, to be with their loved ones when it's time to vote, to make sure that this manipulation is not taking place.
Terrific. Between your work and Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio beating up on the media over it, maybe we can finally get to a place where we'll have a legitimate election again.